Welcome. If you found your way here, there's a reason. Maybe cancer has touched your life or someone you love. And maybe beneath everything that's happening, you can feel this isn't just a physical journey. There's something deeper here. This space is for that. Here, we honour the medical path, and we also honour the inner one, because mindset is medicine. My name is Giselle Gamby, and I'm your host, and I am a cancer coach. You are not alone. Welcome to Cancer and Courage. Dear Cancer and Courage podcast community, a few weeks back I launched this podcast, a new podcast. And this morning I had the inspiration to create this episode to let you in on and connect with me and why I am committing to this podcast, why I have decided to express and support people who have been impacted by cancer through this podcast. My intention is that you get to know who I am, that you get to see into why I have this podcast, why I coach people with cancer, because maybe by connecting in with me, you might also be able to more powerfully connect in with you. So welcome to this episode, and thank you for giving me your time today. And may this episode be the medicine that you didn't know you were looking for. So my name is Giselle Gamby, and I have been coaching people in all sorts of subject matters, from anxiety, depression, relationship problems, money problems, business, career issues, people who have been just generally unhappy. I have been a transformation coach since 2004. And then from 2020, I accidentally became a cancer coach. A twist of fate, a plot twist that I never saw coming. And it has been one of the greatest privileges of my life. I decided to launch this podcast because I have a very big calling and mission in the cancer space. And that is that at a time where fear is absolutely the dominant state of being, when someone has been diagnosed with cancer and when somebody is going through the cancer journey and the overwhelm of the cancer journey, I have a very big calling and mission to remind people that even in the circumstances of cancer, that you can lead yourself with the courage and the power of your spirit. And in fact, because of the intense overwhelm and fear, it is fundamental to be able to place yourself in a position of self-leadership as you lead yourself with the courage and the power of your spirit. My mission includes arming people with the awareness that just as important as all the medical protocols that you are undergoing, so too is your inner journey. Your inner journey that also takes care of and nurtures your mental state, your emotional state, the very human experience that cancer elicits, and also your spiritual state of being. My mission is to arm people with the awareness that even when diagnosed and undergoing all the treatments that come with cancer, that you still have the freedom and the power to choose how you hold yourself through this journey. You still have the power and the freedom to choose how you respond. Whether you respond by default only from fear, whether you respond by default, very understandably, by the way, from a sense of powerlessness and being victim to this cancer diagnosis, or whether you remember that you get to choose how you respond and how you hold yourself, and that holding yourself from this place of self-leadership, from this place of self-awareness, from a place of self-advocacy and radical responsibility and presence, and leading yourself connected with your intuition and your knowing as to what feels right for you and what doesn't feel right for you. My mission is to arm you with that awareness. My mission, for the right people, for the people who are meant to hear this, my mission is to help them see that cancer can be a catalyst into a greater sense of living, not just dying, a greater sense of living a life of more authenticity and freedom, of more peace, more happiness, even purpose born through this cancer journey, and a life where what really matters is what is focused on and given attention to. This is a calling that courses through me. It's not like as if it feels like I even have any choice in the matter. It feels like it's been given to me, this mission. It feels like I'm the one or one of the ones to lead this mission. And it is a very great privilege of mine and joy to sit with people when they are going through one of the most challenging times of their life. It is a great privilege, a great honor, and a great joy. And I'm blessed to have coached the people that I have. I'm blessed to have coached the people that I do. And I'm blessed to coach the people that I will be coaching. So that is why I have decided to give my love, my time, my energy to creating a podcast called the Cancer and Courage Podcast, so that my expression, my vision, my mission, my calling can land in more people's laps and can be the medicine that they didn't know they needed or were looking for. Now I want to share something about me so that you can get to know, how did I even end up here? Because this was never a plan that I ever consciously made. So I have not had cancer, and thankfully, I hope that I never have cancer. I had my own version of cancer in 1999. I had a baby who died when he was 11 days old, and his name was Joshua. And we knew that he was very sick when I had my 18-week ultrasound. He had what was called a diaphragmatic hernia, which meant that he had a hole in his diaphragm and his stomach had travelled up through the hole and was growing up near his lungs. And I led this journey intuitively. We found a beautiful doctor who said that even though there was only a 7% chance that he would survive, had the lungs formed before the stomach had grown and moved into this area, it would mean an operation to bring the stomach back down to where it belonged and to close the hole, and these children live perfectly normal lives. But there was only 7% chance of that. And my intuition said, let's do that. Unfortunately, when he was 9 days old, he was put on life support from the moment that he was born. I never got to hold him until the moment of his passing. And at 9 days old, he was operated on and the lungs had not formed. And so he would never have survived without being on life support for the rest of his life. And so when he was 11 days old, we took him off life support. At the same time, I was in a very, very unhappy marriage, an emotionally and physically abusive marriage that nobody knew about the details of what was going on. Without sharing the ins and outs of that, I ended up leaving that marriage in a very chaotic experience. And I lost myself for a few years. And then in 2002, a friend of mine said, you need to do this course, this personal development course. And I ended up doing it. Now, what I should say before I go into what occurred because of that course, outside of my marriage and outside of that really big time of suffering with Joshua passing, my life in terms of my career, I was very happy in that. I was in a human resources directorship role. I was being groomed for a regional role. Is it a job that I would have done if I had won the lotto? No, but I was really good at that work and I was happy. So I came into this personal growth program, which was a 9-month group program, and it changed my life. I learned about the power of taking radical responsibility. I learned about the power of remembering that I have the power to choose how I respond to my life, to that time of suffering that I was in. And I realized that what was sitting behind the scenes that I had no awareness about was that I had a whole lot of fear-based belief systems of being unlovable, believing that I was unlovable, and believing that I was unworthy. I had no idea they were sitting there. But as they were sitting there, that unlovability and that unworthiness, of course, created the most perfect storm. Of course, it created me attracting a person that would be unfaithful and that would be emotionally and physically abusive. Of course, that was the projection of those beliefs into my life. And when I realized that I had these fear-based belief systems sitting behind the scenes, not creating all of my reality from that place, because of course there was an authentic version of me also living. But whilst they were sitting in the shadows and I was unaware of them, of course they created a reality that was a perfect mirror for that. When I saw that, I felt absolutely free. I felt that I had the ability to recreate my life from a place of authenticity, from a place of self-love, from a place of self-value and self-respect and self-trust. And so the new life began from that moment. But another very, very significant thing happened when I was on that 9-month personal growth program. I'd always been intuitive. Even when I was back at high school, I remember people coming to me and talking to me and me just knowing things about people, but I'd never would have defined it as intuition until I did this program. And then I remembered or realized, actually, I have this gift and I can feel what's going on and I can connect, beyond to a place that's beyond this rational mind. I used to write poetry. And then one day in this personal growth program, as I said, I loved to write. I used to write poetry. And I started writing what was called a stream of consciousness writing, where I got into a flow and I wasn't thinking about what I was writing. And then as I was writing, I was realizing that I had connected to Joshua and that I felt his words were coming through me. I wrote pages and pages worth, but the piece that I want to share with you now so that you can get to know why I do what I do is that he said to me, and I wrote this out, "You're here to ignite people's spirits and hearts." That's what you did to me for 11 days, and that's all I needed. And now I do the same to you. As you can imagine, when I heard those words, I was in complete overwhelm. I was emotionally very, tears were pouring out of my eyes. It is a moment I will never forget. When those words came to me, I did not know at all what they meant. You're here to ignite people's spirits and hearts. What does that mean? I had zero idea what that meant at a practical level. But in my beingness, I knew that those words were words that I had to listen to, that I had to presence and I had to surrender into. I knew in my knowing, I knew that those words were going to change the course of my life. I also knew this, that should I continue in my human resources directorship role and the career that was being laid out in front of me, that those words, "You're here to ignite people's spirits and hearts," would just disappear. So I made the very, very brave decision to leave my HR career. Can't believe it. When I look back at it at times, I think, my gosh, you were so brave. Because I couldn't explain it to anyone why I was leaving. I couldn't explain what those words meant. And I remember feeling quite silly at times. So after I had left, I had committed to tuning in every day and asking the question, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean at a practical level? What am I to do with these words? And after a period of time, I saw the vision. And the initial vision was this. Because I had received so much freedom from taking radical responsibility for my life, because I had received so much freedom from remembering that I could lead myself from the courage and the power of my spirit, because I had received so much freedom in my life, because I had remembered that I had the freedom to choose how I responded to my crisis, I was free. And I wanted to give that freedom to other people who were in their own crisis, in their own moments of chaos, in their own moments of powerlessness, in their own moments of conflict. I wanted to give what I had received. I wanted to give it away. I wanted to show them that they too could be free. Now, the first version of that, what it looked like was I decided that because in my HR career, I dealt with a lot of conflict and blame and judgment, I thought this would be a game changer to bring these premises into the corporate world. And so that's how it began. I ran workshops. My first business was called Dare to be Remarkable, and I ran workshops initially for a financial services company. And then once these 13 men had completed this 4-day workshop, they asked us to put the same workshop on for their partners because it was so life-changing. And so for a while there, I worked in corporate, but what happened was that personal arm just seemed to have a life of its own. So I ran programs and I coached people. And then in 2013, I had an epiphany that I want to speak to here with you now. And the epiphany was this, that I'm actually not here for everybody, which was in contrast to what I thought. I realized that the people that I'm here for are the people who can feel it in their souls that we are meant to do this thing together, that we were meant to meet, that this partnership is a sacred partnership, a sacred contract. And so from that moment onward, every time somebody would reach out to me and we would have a discovery call, I would frame it in that way. We are here today because I'm not here for everybody, but the people that are here for me and that I am here for them, we know it, we can feel it. And so let's have this conversation to see if that's the case. And most people who reach out to me are that. And every now and then they are not for me, and they know that, and I know that, and everything is great. And they go and find the people that they are here for. So the purpose of this podcast is for the people who feel that we are meant to do this thing together, that they find this podcast, that they listen to these episodes or watch these episodes, and intuitively inside of them, they know that there is something here for them, whether it mean that they devour all the episodes, whether that mean that they take on some of the programs that I offer, whether that mean that we work one-on-one, all of the above, in whatever form is right for the person. I'm not in control here. I'm doing my part, and I'm absolutely trusting that what is meant to happen will happen. I accidentally, by a twist of fate, began coaching somebody with motor neuron disease. And then that created a ripple. Then I began coaching people who were referred to me by somebody that's very dear to me, Dr. Carol Haddad, who is an integrative oncologist. And she would also use her intuition and know when she was with some of her patients, she would say to them, you need to have a conversation with Giselle. And she has said to me that the people that she passes on to me who work with me have better results than had they not worked with me at all. And that is an incredible privilege to hear, an incredible honor to hear. I have worked with all types of cancer, men and women. I have had patients who were told they were largely incurable. I have had people who have defied the odds based on their prognosis and the statistics of their prognosis. In fact, the painting behind me, I have placed there to remind myself and the people that I coach of the power and the courage of your spirit, because the painting that is behind me was gifted to me and painted by the husband of someone who was told she had largely incurable stage 4 breast cancer. And she asked her oncologist when she was diagnosed, "Have you ever had anyone go into radical remission?" And the oncologist said, "Yes, one." And she said, "Well, I will be your next." And she is in remission. We have coached for 2 years, one-on-one, and incredible joy. I have had other people, again, defy the odds based on what conventional oncology has told them. And I have also had people who have passed, and I've walked with them until the end of their life. And that too is a very, very deep privilege and honor. So that is how I became a cancer coach, in addition to my other transformation coach. So this podcast really is here to empower you. To empower you with the awareness that mindset is also medicine. Very, very important medicine. In this podcast, I will be interviewing people who I have coached. I will be interviewing Dr. Carol Haddad. I will be interviewing other people who I have been pulled to have them on this podcast. And I'll be sharing episode after episode of pieces that will empower you, will arm you with the inner resources that is so required for you to powerfully hold yourself through this cancer journey. I will also be sharing different resources that you can use. In the show notes below, there will be a few links for you to have a look at. One of the things that I'm absolutely committed to in my own life, and I encourage my clients also to practice, is to practice meditation. Now, I'm not talking about meditation in the context of I have to sit there and think of nothing. When I'm talking about meditation, I'm talking about a practice that allows you to get very, very present with yourself, that allows you to feel all the feelings that need to be felt, but doesn't have you surrender into the stories that those feelings want to tell you. I use meditation not only to get present with the human experience and to honor it and to care for it and to nurture it, but to also go to that place of self-empowerment, that place of knowing, that place of intuition, that place of self-agency, that place of radical responsibility, that place of leading from the courage and the power of your spirit. So I'm currently creating 5 meditations for this reason, particularly for those who have been impacted by cancer. They will be released in the very near future, in the next few weeks, if you would like to be on the waiting list so that you know when those 5 meditations have been released. Please put your name down. As I said, there'll be a link in the show notes. Secondly, there's an opportunity to do a group program, an 8-week group program, to deepen into all the things that I have just spoken about. This was actually suggested by Dr. Carol Haddad, who said, I really feel that offering a group space for people who can't quite afford your one-on-one, this would be hugely empowering. So I will also put a link in the show notes should you wish to explore the group program that runs over 8 weeks that will be held in a few months' time. And of course, there will be details in the show notes should you feel that one-on-one is for you and that you have the capacity to do that. And before I go, I have one more resource to share with you. I have another podcast for the Intuitive Pool podcast that I started at the end of 2021. When I decided to give my love, time, and energy to the Cancer and Courage podcast, I decided to complete the Intuitive Pool. There are 219 episodes on there. More than 110,000 downloads have occurred. It is full of self-awareness. It is a place where you can go and tap into, have a look at, and see which episode do you feel intuitively pulled to go and listen to. It is not cancer related. However, there are a few episodes to do with cancer specifically. But the fact that it's not cancer related is actually even good for you, because you can open your mind up to a field that exists beyond your current reality right now. And those episodes can absolutely impact your journey right now. So I'm going to put a link to the Intuitive Pool podcast there. It's an incredible resource. There are also meditations on there that you can dive into. I hope you enjoy. May this episode, where I've shared me so that you can get to know me and get to know my journey, may it empower you. May all the future episodes and the previous ones empower you. May this be the medicine you did not know you were looking for. I am sending you so much love. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.